All right, Nick, let's talk about the Texas Longhorns. Unfortunately, Quinn Ewers goes down, shoulder injury, but they get the win over Houston. Very exciting game, down to the wire there, but they're able to pull it out. But now the question remains, what happens? Ewers slated to miss, an indefinite amount of time. We'll see how the shoulder heals. Who's going to replace him? And I think a lot of teams will be like, well, we got some backup quarterbacks here, backup quarterback there. There's maybe a guy we can pull in off the street, something like that. No, Texas has a plethora of good quarterback options on this roster, whether it's Malik Murphy, whether it's Arch Manning. I think you'd be happy with whoever gets on the field if you're a Texas fan. And we have a report here talking about potentially who could be starting for this Texas team. May not clear the picture up for you, but I think it's all very interesting nonetheless. Let's get into it and we can talk about it on the other side, Nick. This, of course, is from Burnt Orange Nation. It says, following redshirt sophomore quarterback Quinn Ewers' injury against the Houston Cougars last weekend, in addressing the media earlier this week, Texas Longhorns head coach Steve Sarkisian said both redshirt freshman Malik Murphy and true freshman Arch Manning will receive first-team reps during practice this week, according to Inside Texas. So, Nick, interesting. Everybody's getting prepared for the game. We don't exactly know who potentially is going to be the starting quarterback, but everybody is splitting the reps, getting ready for this one. I think it's going to be a big game, and I want to know what you think about it, Nick. But we're talking about the big game coming up. Texas fans, I want to know. BYU, feisty team, 5-2, not necessarily a bad team, not necessarily a good team. I don't think people know where they are on this scale anymore, so don't let them slide past you. But I'm curious what your thoughts are on the score to this one. Let us know in the comments below what your potential scores for the Texas BYU game will be this weekend. But Nick, I want to know, what do you think about the decision to give split reps on first team to both quarterbacks? What does this mean for Texas? Are they scheming something up? I want to know, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, so the first thing to understand about this situation is that your first team reps, and this was like this when I played college. I'm assuming it's relatively similar to what's going on down in Texas. There isn't a lot of them. Practice is very structured. It's set up by different situations and periods as you work through your scout team looks against your offense. So again, splitting first team reps, that's basically a statement by Sark saying, listen, we don't know which guy, or we don't want the other guys to know which guy we're going to play with, and we're going to sacrifice giving one of the guys the total preparedness for the game. And I think it's actually a smart move, because anytime you lose your starter, you're obviously in a bad situation, but you got to find a way to flip that script a little bit. And one way you can do that is to throw a question mark in everybody's head on the opposing side, especially BYU, because right now BYU's game planning, of course, their defense too against this Texas offense. But BYU now has to split their resources between game planning for Arch Manning behind center and game planning for Malik Murphy behind center, because they don't know who's going to start. It looks like a leaning towards Malik Murphy, but there are some reports, obviously like this one, that they're splitting first team reps. Arch Manning will be ready to play if needed. Coach Sarkisian said that. So if you're a BYU coach, you're like, okay, we have to prepare for Arch Manning potentially appearing and playing at some point in this game, maybe a significant time throughout this game. And that again forces the opposing team, BYU, to split their resources, which kind of puts it in a disadvantage from Texas and kind of evens the field a little bit. So making this very public statement is smart from that regard. But here's the other angle of it that I think is really smart. We don't know how good Malik Murphy is. We think he's phenomenally talented. He's a great athlete. It seems like a really smart guy, has done a lot of good things in spring ball. I think he's going to be a great quarterback, but we really haven't seen him yet. There is a chance, and it's the same thing with Arch Manning, of course, that whoever goes out there, they stink. They're terrible. They're throwing the game away. You want to have another guy ready to go in there to finish it out and find a way to get a win, as you're just trying to buy time for Ewers to return, just in case Murphy or Manning turns out to really struggle. Because the reality is, Texas right now, they have the talent, the coaching, and the schedule to make a run to the college football playoff. They just have to run the table the rest of the way. And I think they can. I think they beat Oklahoma in a rematch. I really do. I think that's a great game. I think it's competitive. But I think Oklahoma won the turnover battle. There was a lot of fluky plays, the Red River rivalry. That's always kind of a crazy game. I think if there's a rematch for the Big 12 national title or Big 12 conference title, I think Texas probably takes that. That being said, you have to get there, and you have to be 11-1 when you get there. So preparing both quarterbacks to play will allow you, if one of them stinks, you can just throw the other one in and find a way to get just enough wins until Ewers returns and you can get back on track. So for both sides of the coin, it's a really smart move by Texas.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a great point, because we do know the prowess, the pedigree of both these quarterbacks. we haven't really seen anyone all season. I think Malik Murphy's thrown all of 8 attempts for completions this season so far. There's really no telling. And I like the point that you bring up is yeah, Malik Murphy's probably gonna start the game, but if he's not good, if this game isn't going the way that it needs to, Arch Manning also is very, very good, has the pedigree. We assume that he's going to be very good just based on, his name alone, all of the training and everything that he's gotten. I mean, in name, you expect a Manning to go out there and, be a good starting quarterback for your team. So I really like what Texas is doing. Like you said, they're playing it smart. They're not showing their hand, but also preparing both quarterbacks just in case they need to use both of them if need be. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they'll probably handily beat BYU, as will they beat the rest of the schedule going through the season. I think they're going to ease their way into a Big 12 championship game, and we're going to see some really interesting play there. But I really like what they're doing, and I think it'll be fun to watch this weekend just to see whoever gets thrown out on the field against this BYU team.
And there's one more factor to consider, and I hate to bring this up, but it's the reality of the college football playoff environment. Texas just can't win. They can't escape like they did against Houston the rest of their schedule, because the reality is they're going to be at best, they're targeting, and I think it's very realistic, a one-loss conference champ. We know the Big Ten is going to probably put two guys in the college football playoff. Whoever wins the Big Ten and the one-loss loser between Michigan and Ohio State. We know the SEC is going to send at least one team, right? Pac-12 is really good this year. They're probably going to send at least one team. Look at that situation. There's 4 teams right there, right? That's very tough. Texas, or any Big 12 team for that matter, has to build a resume. And look, Texas beating Alabama is huge. It probably will be enough. But if down the stretch, if you win every game by 3, 6, 7 points against what most people will rate as inferior competition, that'll hurt you in the eyes of the college football playoff committee. That's just the reality of the sport. So making sure you have both quarterbacks ready in case one is struggling, even if you win the game 20-17 or something, you don't want to go in that situation. You want to win 34-10. You want to win 40-20, right? You want to make statement victories with your backup quarterback. That will get the playoff committee's attention. And I think that's why, again, really smart move, having both guys prepared just in case whoever starts the game off is really struggling. You can throw in the other guy, get that statement win, and keep marching to 11-1.